Happy Thanksgiving. Good morning. Welcome to a very special Thanksgiving edition of Walsh's Playbook. That's former Raiders offensive coordinator Tom Walsh. I'm Grant Cohn. We're going to be getting into what Brock Purdy did well, didn't do well, why he threw those picks, what's going on with him in a minute. But today's show is brought to you by Cozy Earth Premium Pajamas and Blankets. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays. This weekend only, from Thanksgiving through Cyber Monday, get 40% off at cozyearth.com with code COHN. It's the best deal of the year. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here. There's a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty, which is really nice. Also, this show is brought to you by Cash App. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. Just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code SECURE10 in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Promotions provided by Cash App, A Block Incorporated brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. All right, this was on Monday Night Football. We saw Brock Purdy throw 3 picks in 3 consecutive drives. He has now thrown 5 touchdowns and 11 picks in his career on Monday night. He's not great at rising to the occasion and showcasing his abilities, at least on that day of the week. What did you see from Brock? Is it the toe? Is it something else?
Well, happy Thanksgiving, first of all, Grant, to you and all your listeners. I hate to say this, but in going back and analyzing everything, there's a combination of quarterback, wide receiver, and head coach, all of whom figure into those 3 interceptions. And, you and I have discussed this over the years. I've never been really a very good fan of what I call route discipline by 49er receivers. Sometimes I have problems with their releases versus bump and run, and then I really have a problem with the quality of the routes that they run. And for example, you go back to the first interception where Brock was throwing that square in route to Jennings on the left side of the field, down low in their, whether they on their own 10, 12-yard line or whatever. But you go back and you look at it, and they're trying to run an in route, what you call a dig. The square in, one of Kyle's favorite passes. You got to look at the horizontal alignment of where you want the route to break, in addition to the vertical depth at which you wish the route to break. And when you run a square in as a single receiver on the single side of the formation, over the years, we found that success came when you start your breaking point about a yard outside the numbers. Because I want the football thrown to the receiver before he gets even 4 yards inside the numbers. And over the years, you look at the picks that the Niners have thrown, regardless of the quarterback, interceptions on those in-breaking routes always has occurred where? In the middle of the field. Now, from a theoretical perspective, from a understanding of the concept of the horizontal field, how it's laid out, and how defenses drop, whether it's a spot drop or match drops, or where the free defenders are going to deploy, you cannot wait to throw the in route that far into the middle of the field because of the traffic and of the time that you allow, if it's man coverage, for the corner to recover. So when you go back and you look at Jennings' route, he's on top of almost, or on inside edge of the numbers when he begins his speed cut, which is really like running a banana. And the other thing about that route, besides the error where the horizontal break began, is that we always used to preach to the receivers, whether it's Freddie Biletnikoff, Cliff Branch, James Lofton, Timmy Brown, Willie Galt, the myriad of speed talent we had. When you come out of your break, the 3 things: don't fade, don't float, don't drift. And so we would take a cheat step to the post at the very top of the break and then snap that thing off. And from that point, we are going to be able to create separation at the break. Now, Jennings has separation at the break, but he floated almost 6 yards vertically up the field after his breaking point, which allowed the defensive back, A, to close, and B, to undercut the route. And then the route was thrown too far in, the ball was thrown too far inside because the timing wasn't there. And so the defensive back was able to make the play. So there's a combination of the design of where the breaking point is for the route, how the route is finished, and then when the ball comes up, and Brock did not really anticipate it. There was daylight at the breaking point. But then by the time Jennings finished rounding off his banana in, and then by the time Brock got the ball up, it was too late.
So you put this almost as much on the wide receivers or more on the wide receivers than Brock, at least this first interception.
Well, the thing about it is, you know what? Somebody is allowing Jennings to run that in route that way. So it goes back to the drawing board. It goes back to the concept of the in route, how it's being taught, the philosophy of the organization, or Kyle as the orchestrator of the offense, and how that route's being run. And see,
I see. So you look at it like a design issue, an execution issue from the wide receiver. Like whether or not Brock Purdy floated the pass or not, it was doomed from the beginning.
Correct. For a myriad of reasons.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if he's coached. Does Kyle say, okay, I want your breaking point on this square and route to be on the numbers, a yard outside the numbers, inside edge of the numbers, or wherever that is. So for all you know, Jennings is where he's supposed to be horizontally and vertically at the concept.
Well, it's interesting. Jennings is more of a slot receiver. I'd have to go back and look at the play and see what his split was. When Purdy was at his best 2 years ago, his number one target was Brandon Aiyuk, who's a much better receiver than Jauan Jennings, faster, threatens more areas of the field, and Brock could throw those square ins to Aiyuk with a lot of anticipation because he could trust that Aiyuk would win and be in the right spot at the right time. When I asked Brock after the game and yesterday, like, what was going on these passes? He's like, I hitched too many times. I didn't anticipate. I didn't let it rip. I mean, is that a toe thing, or is that like, I don't really trust these wide receivers thing?
It's a combination of everything. Obviously he is not playing at his 100% capacity physically. And secondly, there is a timing issue. Third, there is a quality of the way the route is being run. And there's a problem also with Brock's anticipation. And like on the second interception, when he missed on the throw to the end zone on the double post concept, he had to step up and avoid some pressure, so he was late to make the throw. The receiver, it was a beautiful route. Oh, when you saw the thing lay out, you're going like, oh, this is 6 points. But then he sees the flash of the jersey coming on his left shoulder side, so he has to take a second hitch or a second reset in the pocket. And then he almost moved up to the point where he was throwing it on the run. And then he tried to flatline that ball into the end zone. And by that time, it's gone. That's not the way to throw that ball. The defensive back, when you get down to the goal line like that, well, there's no place vertically for the defensive back about which to be worried. So he's running flat, and he comes underneath the throw and makes the pick. At that point, Brock had two choices. One, top the ball off and throw it over the top that make it come down inside the back line and have a tap by the wide receiver, or he could have just run. He had daylight in front of him, or he could have checked the ball down either to Kittle or to McCaffrey. But to try to throw it on a line that distance, that late, to the part of the field where the defensive back is no longer vertically threatened and now can close horizontally on the receiver and undercut the throw, it's an interception.
When you watched Purdy in this game, and you see how his ball is floating down the field, he was very accurate and efficient on the short passes. So was Mac Jones. And the reason they went back to Brock Purdy is because Brock Purdy was supposed to be more aggressive, pushing the ball down the field, and he is. But it seems like when he pushes the ball down the field this year, he gets intercepted. Again, is that because of him? Is he throwing the ball differently? Is it coming out of his hand differently from what you see, or is he just missing Brandon Aiyuk?
Well, obviously you're missing Aiyuk because the kid's a quality receiver and has great talent. But the bottom line also, regardless of Brock's, physical set where he is towed, throwing the ball firmly, can't load up and turn it loose. By the same token, I think the receivers can do a little bit more to be able to create some vertical separation against the corner, which will then give Brock a little bit more room for error when he does make the throw. It's hard. You very seldom see him miss overthrowing a receiver. And that's a problem. So then if I know that there are limitations vertically on how well he can throw the ball, then I, as a receiver or as a play designer, have to orchestrate some movement, some stems or feelings in the receiver's routes so that when he finishes a move on a defensive back, then when he does accelerate, then that gives Brock that daylight into which to make the throw.
One more question about Brock. He's thrown 7 picks, 8 touchdowns in 4 games this year. He's thrown 9 picks in his last 5 starts. I mean, I understand they paid him and they believe in him and they like him. If you were his coach, maybe you'd feel the same way too. But at what point do you have to pull him? I mean, how many interceptions can he do it again this week against Cleveland? Like, where does he stand right now?
Okay, number one, the first thing is I would go back and look at which patterns or which throws are bringing about the interceptions. Okay, if you track it and you analyze it and look at that respect, is he throwing his interceptions on where on the field are they coming? Are they coming on throws into the middle of the field? Are they coming on the throws deep outside? Are they coming on throws to the flat within the line of scrimmage and 12 to 15 yards deep? And I would look at the picks. Then my key thing is when I sit down with the quarterback going over any particular play, I say, okay, what did you see from your read, your progression, your secondary that made you choose to make that throw when you did? And then look at the timing, look at the relationship between you and the receiver at the breaking point and when the ball should have been up. And until I know what he saw and which triggered him to make that decision, until he tells me that, then I cannot fix it. I just can't chew his butt out or talk and say, well, you didn't do this, didn't do that. I got to find out what he thinks and what he saw that made him make that decision. And then I can fix what he sees to help improve him make a decision. So until I know what Brock thought, I can't fix it.
Can I tell you an incredible statistic from Brock? I mean, it's not about which patterns he's throwing the interceptions on, but it is a split stat. And, he's been in the league about 4 years. He's thrown 34 picks in his regular season career. 20 of those interceptions have come on first down. In his career, he's thrown 20 touchdowns and 20 picks on first down. And it seems like that's the down where he's by far the most aggressive. He's averaging 9.8 yards per pass attempt on first down. On second down, it goes down to 8. Third down, it's about 8. So he's really, really aggressive on first down to a fault sometimes, it seems like. And I understand it's a good down to be aggressive because you're facing base defenses and zone coverages. But there's kind of no excuse to turn the ball over that early when you don't have to. I mean, if it's one thing if it's 4th and 10, not 1st and 10.
Okay. Now here's a thought contrary maybe to Brock also, but is he being given plays on 1st and 10 that are determined to quote unquote bring about a big play, a shot play?
Right.
Now he's been talked into that mindset. So they says, Kyle wants this to be a big play. Kyle wants this to be a shot play. So therefore he's taking quote unquote that shot at the encouragement, at the direction, at the prompting of the head coach, who's also the play caller and the game plan designer. So now that can also be another contributing factor, rather than Okay, here's the
That
thing.
makes
If
sense.
I'm going to help Brock, I'm going to call some quarterback friendly passes.
Mm.
Okay. I'm going to restrict my shot plays with him now until I can get his confidence and his completions and the rhythm in his game and his footwork and pitching and transferring body weight when he throws. I'm going to call a very quarterback friendly game for him in terms of throwing the ball.
Move the pocket, extended handoffs, all that, quick throws,
Exactly.
all that.
And now I'm going to get him back into where he feels good about himself and he feels confident. And then I may say, okay, now here's a shot pass. If it's not there, don't throw it. Check
Don't
it down.
force
I've
it.
got
Yep.
checkdowns for you. Go to
Yep.
your outlets. Release the ball underneath. Allow the catch and run. The other night, he had opportunities on those 3 picks to put the ball elsewhere, but he chose not to. You know, I tell you, I watched that first interception on the throw to Jennings, and then I watched the interception on the third one on the middle in route on the inside. And oh my God, he had all kinds of time. He could have gone elsewhere. He had a Subway sandwich back there. I mean, hell, you know, it's a
No
big
reason to
joke
do
about
that.
having the banana peel and eat that he had all day.
And he was winning, and the Niners defense was playing well, and Carolina's offense is terrible. He could say that he liked the decisions, but those were throws he absolutely didn't have to make.
Okay. The throws were there if they would have been made when they should have been made and how they should have been made. So that's not the issue. The issue is why the hesitation, why the determination to bring the ball out later than he should have. What did he see that caused the hesitation? Those are the factors. But if executed correctly by the receiver and the quarterback, the throws were there. The plays were there.
Well, it's funny. Before we move on, Kurt Warner's on Twitter, and he does a really good job. He always defends quarterbacks after bad games, which is kind of generous of him. And he came out and was like, Brock reminds me of me. Like, that's the way I played. And when I played, I would really push the ball down the field with anticipation, and there'd be like 2 or 3 plays a game where I would throw a pick or the ball would hit the other team's hands, and I would get crushed for it. But it worked out, and I'm in the Hall of Fame. Essentially, what he said. And it seemed like, I remember the Kurt Warner experience when he had Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce and Oz Hakeem and Marshall Faulk. He was great. But when you took those guys away, he became kind of an interception machine. And then he had to go to the Giants, and it didn't work out there. And he went to the Cardinals. It seems like to have a quarterback like that, you really have to have really good wide receivers. And I don't know if the Niners have that.
Well, here's the other thing. Excuse me. There is a science to passing the ball. You just don't draw it up in the dirt and go out there and execute it. There has to be precision, not only in the lines protection package, not only in the quarterback's footwork and read, but also in how the route is being run, how it's being executed. So you got to have all those elements working for you. So if you got the quarterback who's on the page, but the receiver's not on the page, you're going to have a problem. And right now, the Niners are all their pistons are not firing all on the same cylinder with the same rhythm and the same timing. And that's why you have as many issues with the lack of efficiency that they have when they're not throwing the ball to Kittle, when they're not throwing the ball to McCaffrey, and when now Mac Jones had it with Bourne.
That's what I was saying. I was like, maybe they shouldn't have changed quarterbacks because he was in rhythm, 30, 33, 39.
Yeah, that's all hindsight. But the bottom line is, though, it's the other players with whom there is not the chemistry or the connectivity in the passing game. And that's where the focus should be on it. You can't go through the game thinking that Kittle and McCaffrey are going to win every ball game for you throwing the football.
Interesting. So the Niners have a wide receiver issue. Since we last talked, Brandon Aiyuk, the whole thing blew up. Now we know what's going on. Doesn't look like he's coming back. The Niners voided his guarantees because he didn't show up to some team scheduled, supervised rehab. Maybe he blew it off. Maybe he doesn't trust the Niners training staff. It's not like they have a good track record. The Raiders had something similar like this with Christian Wilkins earlier in the year. They voided his guarantees. Do you have any experience with this? Like, what do you make of the Niners taking such a hard line with Brandon Aiyuk and probably getting ready to cut him in a few months?
They may be having buyer's remorse with the contract they gave him because of the attitude, so this gives them an out. And the other thing, if Aiyuk doesn't take his grievance to the NFLPA, then there's no issue, because if he doesn't pursue it and take it forward, then the Niners, unfortunately, they can turn him loose. Now they're going to have a salary cap hit with some dead money, obviously, um, because of the length of the contract and the bonus that they gave him initially, the cash up front. I believe they're going to have to carry some dead money next year if they cut him even after the 1st of June. But it's unfortunate that a player of that talent. But let's say this in the first one. We talked about this, for eons. It has never been a good marriage and a good fit, because the passing philosophy of the way the Niners throw the ball and the way they utilize their wide receivers never married well with Aiyuk's skill set. He would have been great with Kurt Warner. Okay, because whether it's Ellard or Torrey Holt or Isaac Bruce and all these other great receivers the Rams had when they had the greatest show on turf, Aiyuk, and I told you when they came out, I looked at him, I said, this guy is another opportunity to be a Torrey Holt, a Henry Ellard kind of guy. But the Niners passing game doesn't have that mindset. That's not the Niners game. And so there's not a good fit. And so you're going to have frustration.
We talked about it before they signed him, and they were against the extension, and now they're doing it. And they did the extension. They had instant buyer's remorse. I mean, you said they should trade him.
They should have.
Yeah.
It would have been over.
And it's like they're so surprised that the situation played out the way it did, when really I don't think Brandon Aiyuk changed. I think he kind of showed who he was before they gave him the extension, and they thought that maybe giving him a lot of money would make him happy. But it doesn't seem like he ever really gave up his grievance that he had, either because he didn't get the ball enough in the Super Bowl or because of how the negotiation went.
Well, to be honest, Grant, I don't see how the Niners mindset and play design is going to ever be to the point where they feature Aiyuk. Right now they're featuring McCaffrey, they're featuring Kittle now that he's healthy again. But even when they all were healthy, Aiyuk never was factored into the equation as a guy who got more than 4 or 5 targets a game. And so with his talent and his skill set and his ability, that's got to be frustrating for a wide receiver.
I'm sure Aiyuk bears a lot of the responsibility and blame here for this messy divorce. It does seem, though, like he's been on this team since 2020, and it never felt like he was truly in. He always kind of felt like an outsider. He always kind of seemed a little disgruntled about his place in the pecking order. He was in the doghouse for a while. We know the Niners have some players who are lifers. Kittle, Juszczyk. I like to call them the Cabo clique. Do you think there's anything here with just like locker room dynamics? A guy who kind of always felt like a bit of an outsider?
Well, if he's not welcomed into the club when you draft him, you bring him in, and the coach doesn't make an effort to make him feel like he's an integral part of the offense and of the scheme, and he has a value, then how do you expect him as a player to feel like he really belongs and not, be a little chafed with how he's being treated? And so
Kyle worked like he bent over backwards for Debo, Christian, Kittle to make them feel that way throughout the years. And Brandon was always the one who was like, hey, it's my turn.
Yeah. See, that gets back to the point when you sit there as a coordinator and a designer, you've got to be able to sit there and say, okay, I got 5 guys. I've got to find a way to have something for each of them. I've got to divide the pie up and give them all slices here and there to keep them in the ball game. If I went through the first 4 plays of a ball game and I did not have a ball thrown at Cliff Branch, hey, I would expect Clifford to say, get over to the sideline, pick up he says, Tom, what's going on? Why am I not involved? Why am I not getting the ball? Why was I not targeted or at least had a pass called where I was a featured receiver within the first 4 or 5 plays of the game?
What did you think of the Niners coming out against the Panthers on Monday night and Kyle calling the first 5 plays for Christian?
Well, besides knowing that it was going to happen, there's no surprise. There's no shock. That whole ball club, because if Kyle does the script and you rehearse the script and you walk through the script on Friday and Saturday, every player knows he's got the sheet in his hand. He holds up the piece of paper and he says, McCaffrey, 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 McCaffrey. Well, hey, there are no surprises as long as McCaffrey stays healthy. Now, some of those passes were maybe by check down, or some of them are just when you see the depth of the defense drop, you're just going to drop the ball off quickly to McCaffrey so that he has grass to which he can run before the defense congregates around him. But yeah, it's unfortunate. See, that I look at, and people talk about Bill Walsh for decades and the success that he had with Roger Craig and Jerry Rice and John Taylor and the tight ends that he had come through there, Franks and those guys. But Bill made it a concerted effort to get players involved in the game early. And, that was Sid Gilman's philosophy. And, Sid was my football father from back in the early 70s. And that's how I was taught, and after 53, 55 years, I still have that philosophy. You've got to get your players involved in the game. You've got to find a play to which you can get the ball to a receiver or running back or a handoff, get them in the flow of the game, get them feeling like they're a weapon, make the opponent realize that there's more than two tines to the fork.
Yep.
Five spokes, and the Niners have their bicycles got two spokes on the wheel as opposed to five spokes. Because Kyle,
right, it's the same concept in basketball, right? You want to get all your scorers involved early in the game so they're confident and they're shooting.
Correct.
Yeah, it's the same concept. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look ahead to Cleveland. Starting with the defense, the Niners defense. Robert Saleh did a great job against the Panthers. You predicted that the Niners would give up 17. I predict they'd give up 28. They gave up 9. It was very impressive. It was a bad offense they were facing, but what did Saleh do to shut down Carolina, and can he use some of those same principles to shut down Shedeur Sanders and the Browns?
I think that the defensive players were a little bit more alert and aware of responsibilities, and their rally to the ball after it was thrown was better. They were more in tune with what they had to get done. And you're playing on the big stage. You're the only show on Monday Night Football, and they were mentally as well as physically ready to meet the challenge. And I think you look at what Bryce Young did the previous week against Atlanta when he threw for 450-something yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns or whatever. Prior to that, he was throwing for 185 yards a game.
Yeah.
So he had a one-off game the week before where he throws for 400 and something yards. That was more than he threw at 2 previous weeks added together. So now he also went back to being the normal quarterback who he was. And that also helped with the Niners. But then the Niners came out with an effort after seeing the tape of Atlanta where the Panthers went up and down the field on him. And McMillan had a career game as a rookie. It was a wake-up call for the Niners defense, and they responded.
So what do you think they need to do against Shedeur? He's not a prolific passer. I mean, we haven't seen much of him yet, but I think they're probably going to run the ball a lot, Cleveland.
Well, I think, the kid doesn't have much of a resume, obviously. I think he threw for 209 last week against the Raiders, 11 out of 20, something like that. So he's a 55, 58% passer. He does have some ability. He can extend the play. If you don't contain on him, he is going to get out of the pocket on you. Yeah. And he's going to make plays out of the pocket because, you're going to have to plaster the receivers and the tight end, Fannin, and those other guys, Judy. And they had that little kid, Sampson. Was his name Dylan Sampson? Who has got speed. And he had that 0-yard pass against the Raiders where he went 66 yards for the touchdown. And he ran through multiple players. His speed is phenomenal. So I think the key thing for the Niners is, they're not, quote unquote, going to be a sack factor. Although Shedeur does take some sacks when the ball should be coming out. But I think maybe his sense of being able to get the ball out more quickly is going to improve as he plays some. But they're going to have to be able to tackle. They're going to have to be able to wrap up and not just try to knock guys down with shoulders and shrugging, and they're going to have to grab cloth. And the other factor that's going to be, for me, that's going to be huge in this ball game is the weather and the conditions of the field. And when you
Yeah.
get bad weather, you get cold weather, you get wet weather, tackling gets worse. People are not in position. They're reaching, they're lunging. They're not where they should be because the elements don't allow that. They're dressed like a mummy, and you got to change your cleats because if the field softens up, you need to have a longer cleat on your shoes. And so discipline and missed tackles are going to be huge this weekend.
Interesting. So I started this off by asking about Shedeur Sanders, but really, if this is 30 degrees and snowing, this could be a game where both quarterbacks throw 15 passes and hand the ball off 40 times. I asked Robert Saleh yesterday, like, what are you seeing from Shedeur, and what unique challenges does he present, and how's the offense different with him? And he was like diplomatic. He's like, oh, he's we only about a game and a half of film on him, but they're running back number 10. That's a good run. It's like I didn't ask about the running back, so it seems to me that he thinks they're going to get a whole lot of Quinshawn Judkins. Are the Niners prepared to stop him?
I really like that kid. He has got talent, and he can run between the tackles. He's 225 or 230. He's powerful. He's explosive. And then for the changeup, they got the little scat back. They can get him out on the perimeter and almost throw a 0-yard or a negative yard ball out there, put some receivers out in front of him and a lineman and give him a shot on a semi-screen type of concept. And now the Niners have to tackle him in space. So you got one guy you're going to have to load up and be physical in the box against and be able to get hats on him and wrap him up. And then you got the scat back who's going to force you to be able to play in space. And so, I would be more concerned about the success of the Browns' run game than I would be worried about Shedeur lighting it up for 250, 275 yards. That ain't going to happen unless a Niner defensive back falls down and the kid has a free shot to throw him a football.
It's going to be interesting to see if this game comes down to which team runs the ball better, because the Niners have been, running the ball a lot, but not for necessarily a lot of yards per carry, at least when Christian McCaffrey's out there. Now they're going up against one of the better defenses in the league, one of the better run defenses in the league. And not just that, it's Jim Schwartz against Kyle Shanahan. There's ownage here. Jim Schwartz 9-1 in his career against Kyle Shanahan. He's in his head. What does Kyle need to do to reverse this trend?
I tell you, it's going to be a challenge. Not only do the Browns have a great pass rush, obviously Myles Garrett, but I'll tell you what, you go back, you watch them now, they have this kid they drafted from Michigan playing defensive tackle. Is it named Mason Graham?
Yes.
And I tell you what, he has solidified the Browns front with his play in the interior. And then they got by a gift the linebacker who thought was the best. I told you.
Yep.
Before the draft, this kid should be drafted in the first round. If the Niners have a chance to grab that kid, even though they had Fred Warner, they needed this kid. Instead, he's playing in Cleveland. He was the first pick in the second round of the draft. And most likely, Myles Garrett will be the defensive MVP of the league. And then this kid will be the defensive rookie of the year in the league. That's how good this kid is. And he's got the green dot on his helmet, which tells you what? He's another Bruin like you. He's smart
guy.
Smart guy. And he can play. And when you have a rookie, especially with Schwartz's defense, and he's your signal caller, and he's the traffic cop putting everybody where they should be and aligning people and making checks predicated upon offensive formations and shifts and motions, that tells you about how well he is in the mindset of Schwartz, that this kid is a talent.
Yeah, I'm looking. He has 96 tackles in 11 games. Wow. And Myles Garrett has 18 sacks in 11 games. Who is this guy? Wow.
No, but I tell you what. And then
casually having the best season of all time. Okay,
they got two decent defensive backs I really like. They got the Denzel Ward kid at corner, and they got Delpit at safety. And so I tell you what, between Cleveland and the Houston Texans, those two defenses, in my mind, are the two premier defenses in the league. If you
Wow.
separate, and neither one of them really has a good offense to complement the defensive skill set and the way their defenses are playing. But those are the two best defenses. If you just could pick a defense that you would take to match up with anybody, I would take Schwartz or DeMeco Ryan's defense, and then say, okay, go out and put it with, New England's offense, or put it with one of these other clubs' offense. They'd have a Super Bowl team. But unfortunately, they're a half a franchise. They got only one side of the ball that is loaded and performing, and the other side is like, there's a reason why you're 3-8.
Well, clearly the Niners are going to have to run the ball, but we need to pass it at some point too, and that's where Tom comes in with pass reps. Let's give him here. Let's get it on the screen. Hold on. This is the Playbook breakdown segment powered by Pass Reps, where we make you smarter about football every week. You can get pass reps yourself and actually practice calling plays before Sunday for only $1.99 a month. Just go to passreps.com or click the link below. Let me put it on the screen. Tom, what play are we looking at this week?
Okay, now the other day, Kyle tried to run a triple post concept with the middle end, which did not work. It got picked off. Okay. The thing about it is, if he would have the end be the outside receiver, like in this drawing, and run the double post on the inside with the 8 flag and the 8 post, and then I can use Kittle or your backup tight end to chip and help on Myles Garrett. I got McCaffrey in the backfield on the backside, and I'm going to run him on a check release underneath the in route, so I have a high-low over there. And I still have a shot, depends on how they play in the secondary on the inside post, but I've got some protection issues I've got to make sure I take care of first. But now I got a chance to throw the in route on the outside and get the ball up in the air before it gets into the middle of the field, because I want it completed no more than maybe 2 to 3 yards, 4 yards at the most, inside the numbers, not at the hash mark, but inside the numbers. And so you can see the spot where the ball will be on the inside of the numbers. Bam, there's your window, but it's not in the middle of the field. And so this way I can eliminate, the traffic in the middle and put the ball out on the edge a little bit, so the in route, if I'm going to throw it, can be tossed there. And that's where your window is going to be.
You want him to catch it right as he crosses the numbers, not now. This is too late.
Yeah, it's got to be 2 to 3 yards at the most inside the inside edge of the numbers.
At the most.
And the thing about it that's key also is now, the outside edge of the numbers to the sideline is 12 yards. The numbers are 2 yards wide. So I want to align my wide receiver no more than 5 yards from the outside edge of the numbers and allow him to work his stem and his moves and feelings to get to the point where his breaking point is 1 yard outside the edge of the numbers. So then actually he has that yard plus the 2 yards of the numbers, and then the ball's 2 to 3 yards inside that. So there's a 5 yard horizontal window into which he can separate from his coverage to where Brock can make the throw.
Yeah, absolutely. And it requires
anticipation,
but it also requires the right play design.
Yeah, if they got depth and zone and they're fronting the in route, I've got McCaffrey underneath on a choice route, the dodge route concept, where I can just check the ball down directly. So I got a high-low read right there. And so
I see.
But let's orchestrate it and design it, so that it works.
But the point is, if Kyle, if you want to throw this dig route, which the whole league knows you want to throw, you've been throwing it for 10 years, you got to do it right. Otherwise, it's going to be interception city.
Yeah, there's a science to it, yeah.
All right, well, look, you just saw the breakdown. Now go test your own football IQ. Pass Reps updates weekly for just $1.99 a month. The link's below. Don't watch the game. Call it at passreps.com. Tom, what's your prediction this week? It's going to be Niners haven't won in Cleveland in a long time. They haven't beaten an AFC team since week 4 last year. They look terrible against the Texans, who have as good of a defense as Cleveland. They lost to C.J. Stroud. What do you think?
Oh, I tell you what, it's just I look at this. I can see Cleveland winning the ball game.
Mhm.
Let's say that first. I can see where Kyle puckers up against Schwartz. He's 1-9 against the guy, so Schwartz obviously knows Kyle, and he knows Kyle's offense. He's got some great players on defense already. One of the premier defenses in the league. On the other hand, if the Niners can play a smart, clean game, no fips, fumbles, interceptions, penalties, and sacks, the FIPS, the syndrome there, I can see the Niners winning 16-9.
Mm. Interesting. I
But
can see
that
that.
is going to require
Yeah.
your replacement kicker to hit some field goals because the Niners' red zone, I don't think they're going to be able to throw the ball into the end zone via the air. Now, they may throw it outside the end zone, and McCaffrey might be able to navigate some traffic and run it into the end zone. But, and you're not going to get any cheap shots over the top. You're not going to get a quick score because the Niners don't have that philosophy in their offense. And plus, if it's raining or snowing, windy, wet conditions, that's not Brock's game. Even though the kid
Yeah.
was playing at Iowa State in bad weather outdoors in Ames, Iowa, which is like, oh my God, that place is like, there's a reason why the nickname for Iowa State is Cyclones, because the weather when you were in Ames, it could be chaotic. And yet, when he plays now, it's like the guy needs to play in a dome stadium or sunny weather in Santa Clara to really have a good ball game.
Well, maybe that elbow injury he had a few years ago still has a residual effect on him, and he doesn't quite. I don't know what the deal is. It seemed like he can't grip a football in the rain. So here, you said the Browns can win this game. I agree. Let's list all the reasons. One, it's going to be raining or snowing, and we've seen Brock Purdy in those elements. He's not good. It's going to be a 10 a.m. game. The Niners don't adjust their practice schedule whatsoever for 10 a.m. games. We saw that when they went to Houston. They sleepwalked through the first half. It wasn't good. What else? The Jim
Okay,
Schwartz factor.
who's going to block Myles Garrett?
Who's going to block Myles Garrett? Yeah.
How many? Who's going to check? You cannot tell me that you're going to let McKivitz out there on an island by himself blocking Myles Garrett. The guy
No.
had 5
And if you're just
sacks
going to
against
avoid
the
him by
Raiders.
running the ball, then who has the better running back, really? Christian McCaffrey or Quinshon Judkins? McCaffrey's a better receiver than him, but if you're running the ball, the Browns might have a better rushing attack.
Well, the other thing is, can the Niners, in the heart of their offense, block Graham and the other defensive tackle? That's going to
Malik Collins, who they cut. It's Malik Collins. Yeah.
Correct. You go back and you look at Graham against the Raiders rushing a couple of times last Sunday, and he took the center and just bull rushed him and drove him right back into Geno Smith's lap. And then as he tries to get out of the pocket, here comes Myles Garrett around the corner and just ear holes him. And so that's another factor. The interior of the Browns pass rush is making Myles Garrett a more effective player on the outside, as great as he already is. And then here's another factor for you to consider. They line up Myles Garrett off the ball as a middle linebacker over the center in nickel situations. He went right through the center, picked him up, and put him back in the quarterback's lap. He forklifted him up and just took him back there, dropped him in Geno Smith's lap, sacked the quarterback. So Myles Garrett is not always going to line up on the edge.
Interesting.
Back in the day when the Bears did this, they took Richard Dent and they would line him up as a linebacker off the ball and let him pick and choose the gap in which he wanted to rush. We did it with a guy named Ted Hendricks, 6'7", did the same thing where he could prowl and pick his rush lane. Well, Myles Garrett now has added, Schwartz has expanded the game plan for Myles and allowed him now to have some more freedom in where he's being deployed, so that you cannot always, as an offense, say, we're going to chip Garrett, he's going to be on the outside. He might be stacked in the middle of the defense and rushing in the A-gaps. So he's going to cause some alignment recognition issues and blocking scheme issues wherever he goes if he's not on the edge, because if he's on the edge, you better have a guy chipping him every stinking play when you're throwing the ball.
I see. So it's not like it's just going to be him against Trent Williams every play. It's going to be him against Cole
Oh,
McKivitz, him against Jake Brendel, whoever he can find.
correct. I'm going to move him around. I'm going to let him. It's almost like, okay, remember back in the day when you were a kid and you'd go to the gumball machine and the balls you put your coin in, they're all popping over. You don't know what flavor you were going to get because all the balls are moving on air. It's like, for your bingo game, the air's being, same thing now with Myles Garrett. Where is he going to be? I'm going to allow him to move around almost like a joker on defense on rush situations and put him, where I can have an advantage against the Niner protection package and scheme and matchup against a player.
I think the biggest reason that the Browns have a legit chance to win this game, there's the Kyle Shanahan factor against Schwartz, but I think it's just the Brock factor. Like, should he be playing in this game? He really didn't play well against Carolina. He didn't look ready. He didn't look healthy. He looked rusty. And Carolina's defense isn't even good. And it was good weather. Now he's going to go into Cleveland. And a couple of weeks ago, Kyle didn't want Brock to play against the Rams. He was healthy. He thought it wouldn't go so well. This is a better defense than that. And it seems like Kyle's kind of caught between wanting to protect Brock and make Brock look good and make the contract look good and just Kyle's own stubbornness. Like, I decided I wanted to play Brock now. This is the plan. People are telling me to change the plan. I'm not changing the plan. I'm playing him in Cleveland. We're going to win in Cleveland. It's like, you might have a better chance if you just played Mac Jones.
Okay, here's the thing. If I was creating this game plan for Brock, like I told you earlier, I am going to come out with some play action passes that involve a check down. I'm going to say, we're going to run this play down the field. Hey, I want you to check the ball down early, the first and second quarter. I don't care if you're throwing completions for 4 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards. We're going to nickel and dime. We're going to get the completions. We're going to put the ball in the hands of Kittle, short and intermediate, McCaffrey, short and intermediate, Jennings on under routes, hide routes and delays and things like that, high percentage throws, and then eliminate the pass rush because the ball's going to get out of your hands more quickly. That Myles Garrett is not going to be a factor, even though we're going to chip him. And then when Garrett is in the game on normal downs, we may run the ball at Garrett so that we take some steam out of him in pass rush situations. We make him play the run, not as a chase player, but as a point of attack player. And so they gave some of that. And so, but I am going to orchestrate this, and I hate to say it, we're going to have to work the ball down the field with 10, 12 play drive. We're not going to be a fast scoring game because we're not going to put ourselves in that position to expose our weaknesses to the strengths of the Browns defense.
And Brock should be able to do that better than Shedeur Sanders. So
correct. That's the whole point.
So why don't we get into our prize pick segment and show the people exactly what's going to happen in this game. Let's go with quarterbacks first. Brock Purdy, 205 passing yards. More or less for Brock, 205 in the snow against Cleveland.
Oh, you're a brave soul on that one. I've got to say fewer. I hate to do it, but I just don't think the weather's going to be conducive to that.
How about Shedeur Sanders? 160 and a half passing yards against the Niners, more or fewer?
I'll say fewer.
Oof, I would agree. It's not going to be a high-flying game. Okay, rushing yards. Christian McCaffrey, 68 and a half. More or fewer?
I'll say more because he'll probably get 25 carries.
Yep, I would agree. I don't think he's going to average 4 yards a carry, but he'll get 25 of them. Quinshon Judkins, 69 and a half rushing yards against the Niners, more or fewer?
I'll say more.
Yeah, it's going to be that kind of game. Let's finish up with receiving. Which receiver interests you the most? Kittle, McCaffrey, Jennings, Pearsall?
Obviously Kyle's going to feature McCaffrey. But he's going to catch balls for 4 yards, 5 yards, or whatever. But he's going to have 8 targets or 10 targets, 8 catches, maybe 45 yards. But I tell you, Kittle, in my mind, can be a factor in this game. I would say Kittle with more than, what do you got for yards for Kittle?
50 and a half.
Okay, I'll say more.
How about, okay, that's fine. I like that. Just for, let's do that. They had Ricky at like 28 and a half. He had 6 yards last week and 0 the week before that. I would stay away from Ricky at this point.
I'll say fewer on Ricky. This is not his kind of weather. A Florida State kid up there in Cleveland? No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it's just not his kind of game. Okay, those are the picks. Tom's the only person I've ever done a show with who's gotten all 6 picks correct, so pay attention. Still going to flex it just to be smart. Download PrizePicks. Use promo code Cohn, COHN, play $5. Get $50 instantly in lineups when you use that promo code. All right, well, Tom has the Niners winning 16-9. I'm less confident, but I do feel like the final score will be 16-9. I'm not sure which team's going to have 16 or 9, but should be the Niners. This is a game they should win, but it won't be easy.
It's going to be one of those games that they need to win. It's going to be a tough ball game, and they're going to have to.
If they lose this game, it might cost them a playoff spot. They really could.
They're going to have to coach it smart.
Yeah. Too much sauce says Cabo Cruz seems to prefer Purdy over Mac. What about the other guys in the locker room? You think non-Cabo guys think Mac is the better option? Do you think there's like a private discussion in the locker room, like who is our best quarterback? I don't know.
Regardless of what Kyle thinks or Lynch thinks or whatever, the players know, regardless of whom is under center, who should be under center.
True. The players know.
They want to win.
Yeah.
They don't care if you're green, yellow, pink, orange, or red. They want to win.
Yeah, and if Brock comes out and throws 2 picks in the first half against Cleveland, I think even his best friends in the team might be looking over to Kyle like, hey, can we try something else?
Go to the bullpen.
Can we go to the bullpen now, please? Kev says, how does Greg Olsen always end up as the offensive coordinator? Is Greg Olsen the Raiders offensive coordinator again?
Yeah, he was with Pete, I think, in 2023 up in Seattle. So Pete thinks that he knows Pete's mindset of what Pete wants to do offensively. And he's been with Pete before, so Pete feels comfortable about Greg. So, he'll close out the season as best as they can.
Hey, Tom, did you hear this report that came out yesterday? Just came out yesterday that apparently Tom Brady's the guy who hired Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly was reporting to him and not Pete Carroll. What do you think of that?
That's correct. No, that is a truism. Regardless of all the denials in the world, that is true.
You think of Tom Brady as being like a football genius, and wow, he's going to be good at putting a team together because he could play quarterback. But that's one of the dumbest things anyone's ever done, giving all that money to Chip Kelly.
Well, think about this now. You look at so far, he wanted to bring Matt Stafford to Vegas as the quarterback.
Yeah, good luck.
That didn't go. He wanted to bring the Chicago Bear kid, the coach was Ben Johnson.
Yeah, everyone wanted him. Good luck.
That didn't float. He wanted somebody. He wanted Sam Darnold. That didn't float. Right now, Brady's record as a quote unquote decision maker in the franchise is going about as well as another guy in Denver named John Elway, Mr. Ed, and he went through a disaster. He went through like 5 quarterbacks, Paxton Lynch, and guys like Tebow, guys like that. And hey, just because you're a great quarterback, ask Dan Marino. He didn't have all the answers in Miami. And, I tell you, sometimes if you're a great player, that does not mean you're going to be a great coach. It doesn't mean you'd be a great general manager.
All right, let's go watch some pigskin on TV. Let's go have a good time with our families. Tom, thank you so much for giving us an hour on Thanksgiving. I really appreciate it.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to you, your family, and to all of your viewers out there. And be safe if you're traveling also on the holidays.
Yeah, I'll be in Cleveland in a couple of days. Looking forward to that. See you guys.
No tacos in Cleveland for you.
No tacos in Cleveland. I don't know what I'm going to be finding, but not Mexican food. Tom, great to see you.